Ready when you are.
Hi, my name is Mallory Knight. I'm from Cousino High School.
And my name is Zulfa, and I'm from Mount High School, and this is our presentation on reading exercises and HRV. Here's a brief outline of our experiment. We'll begin with an introduction, some background information, then we'll go into our procedure and materials, we'll do our statistical analysis and results, and we'll end off with some takeaways.
So to start with our introduction, first off, what is HRV, which is also known as heart rate variability, which is the actual lengths between each heart rate or heartbeat. And it is when you have a higher HRV, there is more variation between the distances between each of the individual heartbeats, and it means that your body can react faster to different changes in stimuli and more efficiently. And when your HRV is a little bit lower, your body reacts less efficiently and a little bit slower to different changes in stimuli, and it's much more consistent between each heartbeat. And this is all affected by the autonomic nervous system. Now, when talking about the autonomic nervous system, there's two different branches that it's focused on, which is the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system. The sympathetic nervous system is otherwise known as your fight or flight senses. So when different things are changing around you, you have an increased heart rate and you intake more oxygen, which leads to a lower HRV. And the parasympathetic nervous system is really more of what you want, which is known as the rest and digest response to things, which it makes you more relaxed, your heart rate goes lower, and your HRV goes up. Now, you can do many different variations of affecting your HRV. One reason in specific would be breathing techniques, and you can change that from person to person however you need individually. But for this experiment, we decided to do just one consistent for each of our trials, and that included breathing in for 4 seconds, holding it for 4 seconds, breathing out for 4 seconds, and then holding that for 4 seconds on a continuous 2-minute loop.
So why is it important to know our HRVs? Well, when you have low HRV, it means that your sympathetic nervous system is currently more dominant in your body. And while this is normal after physical activities, if your HRV is low when you haven't been doing any physical activities, it means that there's more stress on your body than usual. And this could lead to other side effects such as anxiety, fatigue, or poor sleep quality. And so in order for us to have a healthier body, we want to be able to increase our HRV as much as we can. A similar study was done by Hyuk Chang in the past, where she was studying the effects of breathing techniques and cognitive intervention exercises on HRV and sleep quality. Cognitive intervention exercises are exercises that are supposed to lower your anxiety and depression, such as journaling or putting yourself in situations to overcome your fears. Her experiment had 86 total subjects, 46 were in the control and 43 were in the experimental group. The control group went about their lives as usual, while the experimental group would do continuous breathing treatments and cognitive intervention exercises. After a month, she noticed that the experimental group had a much improved range of HRV and better sleep quality. So now we'll move on to our procedure and experiment. So our experiment was done to conduct the effects of breathing exercises on HRV after a stressful situation instantaneously. So basically, in other words, we want to know if a breathing technique can increase a person's HRV right after a stressful situation. Our hypothesis was that the breathing exercises will increase someone's HRV.
Now, for our experiment, we needed a HRV monitor, which sat right below in that kind of divot in your chest, and you pulled it a little bit snug against your body just for a more accurate reading. And we used an iPhone, which had the Elite HRV app on it, which would Bluetooth connect to the monitor and record the data that was, record the HRV. And these are the two word searches that we used. We randomized for each different trial in both the control group and the experimental group. And we wanted to randomize them just in case one was a little bit more difficult than the other and anything kind of like that. And we told each of the different trials, each of the different test subjects, that they could get some extra credit in math if they happened to finish in the allotted time to add more of a anxiety-inducing factor to it. So these are some examples of a few of our trials, the first two being the control group with no breathing treatment. So the first is just an example of someone taking a timed word search, knowing that they could get some extra credit in math class if they happen to finish it. And then there is them just doing nothing as they usually would afterwards while we take their HRV again. And then the second two are our actual experimental group with the breathing treatment. So again, just a timed word search, the exact same with a randomized word search. And then the second one is them going straight into the breathing technique and taking their HRV whilst they do that.
Moving on to our statistical analysis. So for our data, we had to randomize a few different things. The first being the subjects. So we got all the freshmen in the AM and we assigned them a number. And we used RTI Inspire to randomize all the numbers, like the order of the numbers, in order to get our trials. Secondly, we had to randomize which group that they will be in, whether they'll do the breathing treatment or not do the breathing treatment. We did this by assigning the two groups a number, 1 or 2, and then randomly assigning those numbers to the subjects, making sure there was 15 for each group. The third thing we randomized was the word searches. We did it in the same way that we did the two groups. Again, we gave them 1 and 2, and then randomized those two. So the initial HRV was found after the subjects did the word search, and the final HRV was collected after they did the breathing exercise or sat for a minute and a half, depending on which group they were in. The initial was subtracted from the final, giving us the difference in HRV. So in this example here, the difference was -3. We got all the differences in HRV and put them on this box plot. So as you can see, there's a lot of overlap between the box plots. Almost the entire thing is overlapped with each other, showing that there's a clear, it's really clear that there is no effect on breathing exercises on HRV, because both of them had really similar results. And if you can look at the means, the mean of the no breathing treatment of -1.4 was actually higher than the mean of the breathing treatment of -2.9. This means that on average, the breathing treatment group actually decreased HRV more than the no breathing treatment group. So we ended up rejecting our hypothesis that the breathing treatment will increase HRV, as our results showed that there was no effect. So why did we get these results? Well, as we saw in the study mentioned earlier, if you do breathing exercises over the course of a month continuously, it will increase your HRV. This is because when you feel stressed, you usually take in more oxygen than usual, causing an imbalance in oxygen in your body. But when you do breathing exercises, it stabilizes the amount of oxygen you have in your body, and it increases your HRV. But because our trials were much shorter compared to the month trials done in the study to our 5-minute trials and 2-minute breathing exercises, there wasn't enough time for the oxygen to stabilize in our subjects' bodies.
Now, takeaways from this experiment: if there's anything we were to change about if you were to do this experiment again or anything similar to it, the first thing would be to have a larger sample size group. We only had 15 in each of our groups for a total of 30 trials, where it would be more beneficial to have 30 in each group for a total of 60 trials, because that would give more accurate data and a wider range of the idea of how it affects. Another thing was the anxiety-inducing method that we used was not super consistent throughout each individual. Some people found that the want for the extra credit in math or the word search itself was not so stress-inducing, or more of just they did it at their leisure, however they liked, whereas some took it seriously and wanted that extra credit or took it more stressful. So finding some sort of common ground where it would be more general for everyone would also be beneficial. And also possibly not using freshmen in our sample group, because freshmen, they're new to the building, they haven't done research before, it's kind of all new, so it may make some nerves rise as is anyway. Whereas if we did sample size from the junior group here at MMSDC, they've done it twice before, might know a little bit less, might be a little bit more relaxed when they're called into a room to have their HRV monitored. And for any future research that can be done, you could do it for longer lengths of time. Like the other previous research that was mentioned, it does work over a longer period of time, but you can switch up different things that you're testing with it, because breathing techniques are not the only way to affect one's HRV. And you could also do different types of breathing treatments or breathing techniques, whatever works for each individual person. Maybe a little bit deeper breaths or holding it for a little bit longer may work for certain people. Now, any takeaways from this presentation is to remember that breathing technique does help raise your HRV, but it does not work in an instantaneous rate. So if you just do it once, it's not exactly going to have quite the effect that you're going to want it to have. But if you do it consistently over a period of time, it may. And also more research can be done, like I just previously stated, that with different breathing techniques, different things to test how you can affect your HRV, such as that. And we wanted to thank Mrs. Tallman for helping with our data and analysis section, and Ms. Gravel for providing the support, keeping us on track, and providing some materials. For example, the camera just to record our trials. And then Mr. Stappa for the idea in general of this research topic, more resources, and perfecting our experimental design. This is our works cited. Thank you for watching our